Personnel Commission meeting to order. Today is July 9th, 2020, and it is 3:30 p.m. Okay, we'll do roll call. Chairperson Mary Lou Ulloa, present. Vice Chairperson Harshdeep Nada.
Present.
Commissioner Henry Ann Yee.
Present.
Secretary Angela Bianchi.
Present.
Okay, if we could please stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so I assume we don't have guests.
I don't have any guests. I didn't receive any public comments.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our June 4th, 2020 meeting. So we'll take a minute to review the minutes.
All right, motion to approve the minutes of the June 4th, 2020 meeting.
And I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed to approve the minutes of the June 4th, 2020 meeting. Now we need to review the agenda so we could approve the agenda. Are there any questions about the agenda?
Looks good. Motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
I
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed to approve the agenda for the July 9th commissioner meeting. And then we have chairperson's report is number 7 on our agenda. I just like to say thank you to everyone who's working from home and keeping us all in touch with what's happening within our district. And please remain safe. Okay, and secretary's report.
I will second that. Everyone has been working, so the hours just seem to be removed from our regular 8 to 5, and now everyone's texting and calling each other at all hours of the night, so that our hours have now been removed, and it's like we're just running 24/7. So there's a lot going on. So I echo what you say, and I just thank everyone who is also working from home. It's a lot more difficult than we ever imagined it would be. Last night we had a board meeting, and the board, I don't know how up to date you guys are with AB 77, but AB 77 was signed into law, and there's numerous pieces to it, but one of them is that we cannot do layoffs for child nutrition workers, transportation, and custodial staff for the 2021 school year. And so we had custodial staff who were laid off back in April. And as we go through their reemployment rights, those folks who have seniority over less senior staff have a right to bump. And so normally the way it would work is that staff with more seniority keep bumping until we have a group of staff who are eventually the least senior, and then they would get a layoff notice. Well, now that AB 77 came into play, we can't take that next step and lay off this group that had been bumped. So essentially we have 9.25 FTE of staff who have been bumped with really nowhere to go. And so last night the board took action to reinstate 9.25 FTE so that we can bring back all those custodians who don't have a place to go. So that doesn't mean that all of the custodians are being brought back, just 9.25 at this time. I know there was some discussion about looking at the cost involved with bringing everyone back, But I know we did not have those numbers last night. And so my understanding is there will be a budget presentation on the cost that it would be to have the additional staff who were laid off brought back. But that won't be the same for, para educators or anyone else that was also laid off. With that being said, we do have over 40, well over 40 now, probably closer to 50 staff who have been brought back, just from vacancies, from attrition, from various changes in staffing. So we've been able to bring back quite a few staff who have been displaced, and so we're just continuing to work diligently through that process.
So what's an update on the opening of schools?
So tomorrow, actually, so last night, well, let me back it up even further. I think I mentioned to you all that we had task force meetings where we were separated out in task
Right.
force based on like safety, human resources, instructional. So we had these various task force, and then every Friday we would meet all together, and we would go over what we came up with in our individual task force and develop 3 plans. So one was the return to work model, the hybrid model, and then distance learning and what that would look like for each piece. So last night there was supposed to be a discussion on it at the board meeting. However, I believe because of the amount of time required for that discussion, they now have a board meeting scheduled for tomorrow. And I believe it's at 4, and that board meeting, they will go over the various options, and the board will need to make a decision on which instructional model that we'll use. And then I think we'll redefine sort of what that plan looks like in terms of who comes back first. Obviously we need to get plexiglass installed, and safety PPE needs to come in. So we're not there yet, but I know we're getting close. But the first step is really just getting some direction from the board on which route we're going for the instructional school year.
So Angela, my next question would be, so the staff, I mean, they haven't been working, like the custodial staff at the school sites and the maintenance department, I'm assuming some are working, but not all. Is there a timeline for them to return to the sites to get the sites ready?
We're working with SEIU. That's through a negotiated item. So that's all being negotiated. So there's not a whole lot I can publicly talk about in that regard, but we're hoping soon. And we have had some staff coming back, maintenance on the transportation vehicles, the mowers, the grounds have been maintained, obviously at a lower level, but we have still maintained as much as we could with the staff who we could get to come in.
Thank you. So
that would conclude my update.
Angela, we do have a new superintendent from what I heard.
Yes, so we do have a new superintendent that was appointed last night. CJ Kamek, I believe is the last name. And he comes to us from Martinez Unified School District. I saw a board update on that, and actually I will send that to you all so that you have that, so you can see that, because there's a little bio in there, so that'll be good for you to have.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I noticed on your on the agenda, on the letter for this meeting today, that the name of the assistant superintendent of instruction, there's no name there.
So the superintendent of instruction, Debbie Ashmore, she resigned. And so that position is vacant, but that will go, I believe there's interviews next week for that position.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So we'll move on to new business. Is there any new business?
No new business.
Okay. So item 10 of our agenda, other businesses. We have 10A, working out of class, reference attached list. So if we'd like to review that list.
I guess there's only two.
No, it's just an information.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we'll move on to item other business 10B, eligibility list. So we have 5 lists. List number 1 is for the Autism Center Program Facilitator. List 2, Library Media Technician. List 3, Personnel Assistant 1. List 4, Resource Specialist Paraeducator. And List 5, Staff Secretary 3. And this is an action item.
All right, motion to approve item 10B, eligibility lists 1 through 5.
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor of approving the motion for the eligibility list 1 through 5?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed to approve the eligibility list. Okay, now we'll go on to item 10C, personnel actions. And this is for information only. So you'll notice that some of the people that were on people that were on the eligibility list did get hired, that were on the previous eligibility list from June, have gotten to positions. They were assigned to Staff Secretary 3 and Personnel Technician.
Yes.
Okay, so we can move on to the recruitment report, which is the references attached.
So the library media tech, that there were 2 roles open for 2 positions open, 1 internal and 1.
We are starting to post both. If we had a hard time posting the first recruitment internal, we didn't capture. So now we're
Got
doing
it.
both internal and
Oh.
external. If we have to, we prefer to do internal only. But some of the positions are harder to fill internally, so we need to post them outside as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
So this was info only. So are there any other questions on this?
Looks good.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 10E, add employee number 15421 to the personnel assistant 1, 39-month reinstatement list.
So that was we had an employee who moved on to the personnel technician, and then they requested to be placed back into the personnel assistant 1 reinstatement list. And so normally I let you, these are the letters that I usually pass around and let you read it.
Right.
But basically, the request is to be added back to the PA1 position. They believe that the PA1 position is better suited for their skill set. They state that they enjoyed the variety of tasks that are associated with the PA1 position, and thank you for your consideration.
This is an action item.
Okay, I move that we accept the request for employee 15421 to be placed on the personnel assistant 1 reinstatement list.
I second the motion.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. So employee number 15421 will be reinstated into the personnel assistant 139-month list. Okay, we're now to item 11, communications.
We don't have anyone joining us today, so I don't think we have any communications. I'm checking my email right now just to make sure no one else has submitted any last minute comments. So just hold on 1 second.
Is our meeting being live streamed today?
It is.
Oh, okay.
But we put a note on the minutes and the posting that they need to submit their comments by noon today, but I do not see any comments waiting for us.
Okay, should we move on to item 12? Or you still want to look some more?
No, we're good.
Okay, so then item 12 would be our next regular meeting is set for August 6th, 2020 at 3:30 p.m. And I'd like to adjourn today's meeting at 3:47 p.m.
Oh, wow.
That
Quick
was
meeting.
the record meeting.
Yes,
It is.
Especially over Zoom.
Yes.